The tow truck's chains rattled against the rusted metal as security guards shoved Mason backward. His 7-year-old daughter screamed. Cameras flashed. 200 millionaires laughed at what they thought was junk. But underneath that corroded shell sat $3 million of American automotive history, and nobody knew, except the quiet man in work boots they were trying to humiliate. In 60 seconds, everything would change. The secret would explode. And the only person who'd shown him kindness, a broke waitress nobody noticed, would discover that sometimes the most valuable things come disguised as garbage. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The sun hadn't fully risen over the Illinois countryside when Mason Reed heard the floorboards creak outside his bedroom door. He didn't need to check the clock. It was 5:47 a.m., same as every morning for the past 3 years. "Daddy?" Chloe's voice came soft through the gap, tentative, always testing whether he was awake, never wanting to disturb him, but unable to sleep alone since her mother died. "Come here, sweetheart." The door pushed open. His daughter stood silhouetted against the hallway light, clutching that ratty stuffed rabbit she refused to let him replace. One ear hung by threads. The other had been stitched back on so many times it pointed the wrong direction. She padded across the hardwood in bare feet, climbed into bed beside him without asking. 7 years old and already learning to make herself smaller, quieter, less trouble. It broke something in him every time. "Bad dream?" Mason pulled the quilt over both of them. "Uh-huh." "Same one?" Chloe nodded against his shoulder. She never described the dreams anymore. Didn't need to. They both knew she was dreaming about the accident, about the night that split their lives into before and after. He held her until her breathing steadied, until the tension drained from her small body. Outside the window, the property stretched dark and empty, 40 acres of nothing between them and the nearest neighbor. Most people would call it isolated. Mason called it safe. By 6:30, they were downstairs. He made pancakes while Chloe sat at the kitchen counter drawing invisible patterns in the flour he'd spilled. The house was too big for 2 people. 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a chef's kitchen they barely used. His father had built it during the boom years when Reed Investments was expanding faster than anyone could track. Now it just felt hollow. "We have to go into the city today," Mason said, flipping a pancake. "There's an event. Classic cars." Chloe's face brightened. "Can we bring ours?" "That's the plan." "Even though it's ugly?" He smiled. "Especially because it's ugly." She didn't understand yet. Nobody did. That rusted heap sitting under a tarp behind the barn looked like something that should have been crushed for scrap metal 20 years ago. Paint peeled in strips. Chrome had oxidized to a dull brown. The interior was destroyed. Cracked leather, missing gauges, seats torn down to the springs. But Mason had recognized the chassis number the moment he'd seen it half buried in weeds at that farm estate auction. He'd paid $120 while other bidders laughed. Let them laugh. They didn't know what they were looking at. Underneath the rust and decay sat one of only 348 original 1965 Shelby Cobra, 427 ES ever built. With proper restoration, it was worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. Maybe $3 million. Maybe more if the right collector got desperate. He hadn't told anyone. Not his board of directors, not his financial advisors, not even his father. Especially not his father. The old man would have wanted to flip it immediately, turn it into another line item on a quarterly earnings report. But Mason didn't want to sell it. He wanted to restore it. Slowly. Carefully. Bring it back the right way, the way his grandfather had taught him before dementia took his memories. Back when they'd spent weekends in the garage together, the old man's hands still steady enough to teach a boy how to rebuild an engine from parts. Those were good memories. Mason didn't have many left. "Go get dressed," he told Chloe. "Something nice. It's a fancy event." She slid off the stool, started toward the stairs, then stopped. "Will there be other kids?" "Probably not." "Oh." He knew that particular flavor of disappointment. Chloe spent too much time alone, too isolated out here. Other children made her nervous now. She'd missed too much school after the accident, fallen behind socially in ways that didn't show on report cards. But the alternative was worse. In the city, people recognized him. Recognized the Reed name. They had opinions about his money, his choices, his dead wife. They wanted things from him. Access. Investments. Introductions. Out here, nobody wanted anything. By 8 o'clock, they were loading the Cobra onto a flatbed trailer Mason kept for hauling equipment. He'd covered the car with a weathered canvas tarp that had seen better years, deliberately ugly. He wanted it to look like something a farmer might use to protect a broken tractor. Chloe helped him secure the tie-downs, her small hands serious with concentration as she checked each buckle twice. She was good at details. Careful. Too careful for a 7-year-old. Daddy, why don't you buy a nice car to show people instead? What's wrong with this one? It's all rusty and broken. Things that look broken can still be valuable, Mason said. Sometimes they're more valuable than the shiny stuff. She considered this with the gravity children bring to philosophical questions. Like Mr. Turnip? He glanced at the stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. Exactly like Mr. Turnip. The drive into Chicago took 90 minutes. Mason kept the truck at exactly the speed limit, staying in the right lane while faster traffic blew past. Chloe sat beside him reading a book about horses, occasionally pointing out things through the window. A red barn, a bunch of cows, a billboard advertising injury lawyers. As they got closer to the city, the landscape changed. Fields gave way to suburbs, suburbs to industrial parks to the dense urban sprawl that surrounded downtown. The event was being held at some converted warehouse space in the West Loop, one of those trendy areas where old meatpacking buildings got turned into event venues for people with too much money and not enough taste. Mason hated these things, but his assistant had insisted the charity was legitimate. They actually funded automotive trade schools for at-risk kids instead of just throwing galas and skimming the donations. And the organizers had personally invited him after someone on their board realized he'd made a substantial anonymous donation last year. So here he was, driving a rusted car to a luxury event where everyone would assume he was lost. The parking area was chaos when they arrived. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, a McLaren that probably cost more than most houses. Everything gleaming and perfect, arranged like jewelry on display while professional photographers worked the crowd. Mason backed his trailer into an empty spot near the loading entrance, deliberately away from the main showcase area. A woman in a headset immediately rushed over, clipboard in hand, stress radiating from her like heat shimmer. "Sir, this is for registered vehicles only. If you're making a delivery..." "I'm registered. Mason Reed." She checked her list, frowned. "Mr. Reed is supposed to arrive at the VIP entrance with..." She looked up, actually saw him for the first time. Work boots, jeans, a flannel shirt that had been through the wash too many times. "You're Mason Reed?" "That's right." Her expression shifted through several emotions too quickly to name. Confusion, doubt, growing horror as she realized she'd just been rude to someone important. "I apologize, Mr. Reed. I didn't recognize. We were expecting..." "It's fine. Where do you want the car?" "Car?" She stared at the trailer, at the lumpy shape under the tarp. That's your entry? Is there a problem?" No, of course not. We have a specific area for the classic vehicles, and She was floundering now, trying to figure out how to handle something that clearly didn't fit the script. "Let me get the event manager." She fled before Mason could respond. Chloe tugged his sleeve. "Is something wrong?" "People get confused when things don't match their expectations," he said. "It's not your fault or mine, just how people are." The event manager, who appeared 5 minutes later, was everything the first woman wasn't: polished, confident, moving with the particular arrogance of someone who'd never been told no. Designer suit, expensive watch, hair that had seen a professional that morning. His name tag read Richard Castellano, event director. "Mr. Reed." Richard's smile was practiced but didn't reach his eyes. "We're so pleased you could join us. Though I have to admit there seems to be some confusion about your vehicle entry." "No confusion. That's it." Mason nodded toward the trailer. Richard looked, really looked. His smile fractured. You're joking." "Not joking. Mr. Reed, this is a prestigious showcase. We have 28 vehicles here collectively worth over $40 million. The photography alone cost us $18,000. We can't..." He stopped, recalculated his approach. "Perhaps you have another vehicle? Something more suitable for the caliber of event we're..." "This is what I brought." Richard's jaw tightened. Around them, other event staff had started to notice the commotion. A small crowd was forming. wealthy attendees in expensive casual wear, sipping champagne at 10 in the morning, sensing drama. Sir, I don't think you understand what kind of event this is. We have standards. We have a reputation that... Richard gestured at the tarp like it was roadkill. That looks like something you pulled out of a junkyard. I pulled it out of a barn, actually. Even worse. Richard had abandoned pretense now, his voice rising. We can't have that thing anywhere near the showcase vehicles. It'll look like a joke, like we're running some kind of low-rent county fair. Chloe pressed closer to Mason's side. He felt her trembling slightly. The registration said all classic American vehicles were welcome, Mason said quietly. This is a classic American vehicle. That is scrap metal. It's a 1965 Shelby Cobra. Richard laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. That is not a Shelby Cobra. I've seen Cobras, real ones. That is a rusted-out kit car some amateur threw together in his garage and abandoned when he realized he was in over his head. Look at the chassis number. I'm not wasting time, so... Look at the number. Something in Mason's tone made Richard pause, but before he could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Is there a problem here? Mason turned. A woman stood a few feet away, late 20s, maybe 30, wearing the black pants and white shirt of event staff. She held a tray of empty champagne glasses balanced on one hand, but her attention was entirely on Richard. This doesn't concern you, Clara, what Richard said without looking at her. I just thought, if there's a dispute about a vehicle, shouldn't we at least look at it before... I said it doesn't concern you. Get back to your station. The woman, Clara, hesitated. Her eyes moved from Richard to Mason to Chloe, who was now gripping Mr. Turnip so tightly the stuffed rabbit's remaining ear was folding in half. Sir, Clara addressed Mason directly, ignoring Richard's glare. Do you have your registration paperwork? Mason pulled it from his pocket. Clara set down her tray, took the papers, scanned them quickly. Her eyebrows rose. This says Classic American Muscle Car, Restoration Project. That's an accepted category. It's junk, Richard snapped. And you're about 2 seconds from being fired for insubordination. Clara's face went pale, but she didn't back down. I'm just reading what the registration... Get back to work. She handed the papers back to Mason, gave Chloe a small, encouraging smile, and retreated with her tray. But Mason saw her glance back twice as she walked away. Richard turned his full attention back to the problem at hand. Mr. Reed, I'm going to be very clear. That vehicle cannot be part of this showcase. I don't care what your registration says. I don't care if you think it's a Shelby Cobra or a vintage Rolls-Royce. It looks like garbage, and it will make this entire event look like a joke. So what do you suggest? Take it home. We'll refund your entry fee. And the charity donation I made? Richard's expression flickered. That's extremely generous, and we appreciate $500,000, Mason said. Unrestricted grant to your automotive trade school program. Already processed. Non-refundable. The crowd had grown larger. People were recording on their phones now. Mason could see the calculation happening behind Richard's eyes. The money versus the optics. The donation versus his pride. That doesn't change the fact that your vehicle doesn't meet our standards, Richard said finally. The donation was given freely. The showcase requires quality. So you're refusing to display my car. I'm protecting the integrity of this event. By discriminating based on appearance. By maintaining standards. Richard was losing his composure now, voice rising to carry across the parking area. This is a luxury automotive showcase, not a scrapyard. If we let every piece of junk through the door just because someone paid money, we'd have no credibility left. Chloe made a small sound. Not quite a whimper, but close. Mason felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd dealt with men like Richard his entire life. Men who judged value by surface shine, who measured worth in polish and presentation. Men who looked at his daughter and saw only inconvenience, at his car and saw only rust, at him and saw only someone who didn't fit their expectations. Chloe, wait in the truck, he said quietly. But Daddy, please. She went, but slowly, looking back over her shoulder. Mason turned to Richard. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was not having security remove that thing the moment you arrived. But I can fix that now. Richard pulled out his phone, made a call. Yeah, we need a tow truck at the west loading area immediately. You're not towing my car. Watch me. The crowd was loving this. Mason could hear them murmuring, laughing, narrating the scene to people who hadn't arrived yet. Someone was live streaming it. He could see the phone held up, the distinctive red recording light. Perfect. Mr. Castellano, Mason said, keeping his voice level, I'm going to give you one more chance to reconsider. And I'm going to give you one chance to leave quietly before security escorts you off the property. That vehicle is worth more than every car in your showcase combined. Richard actually laughed out loud. That wreck? You're delusional. That thing's worth maybe $500 in scrap metal if you're lucky. $3 million, Mason said clearly for the cameras. Conservative estimate, after restoration. The laughter stopped, but Richard recovered quickly, his expression hardening into contempt. You're either lying or insane. Either way, you need to leave. A tow truck was already pulling into the parking area. Richard must have had it on standby, probably kept one around for exactly this kind of situation. The driver climbed out, started unwinding the cable. Mason didn't move from in front of the trailer. Sir, you need to step aside, the tow driver said. He sounded apologetic but firm. I'm not letting you take my car. Then we have a problem. Richard pushed forward. He's trespassing. Remove the vehicle and call the police if he interferes. The tow driver looked uncomfortable. I just tow cars, man. I don't want to be part of... You're being paid to do a job. Do it. Mason felt his phone buzz in his pocket. Probably his assistant, seeing the live stream, panicking. He ignored it. The tow driver hooked the cable to the trailer's tow point, started the winch. The trailer began to move. And that's when Chloe's voice carried across the parking lot, high and desperate and breaking. Please don't break my daddy's car. Everyone froze. She'd climbed out of the truck, was running toward them with Mr. Turnip clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. 7 years old and terrified and trying so hard to be brave. Please, she said again, looking up at Richard with those enormous eyes. Please don't take it. It's special. Daddy says it's special, even though it looks broken. The crowd had gone dead silent. Every camera was pointed at Chloe now. At this small child pleading with a grown man in a $1,000 suit, Richard's face had gone red. He was trapped, looking like a monster if he continued, looking weak if he backed down. His mouth opened, closed. Clara appeared out of nowhere, moving quickly across the parking area. She put herself between Chloe and the tow truck, one hand reaching down to rest gently on the child's shoulder. Hey, sweetie, she said softly. It's okay. Nobody's going to break anything. Yes, they are, Chloe's voice cracked. They're going to take Daddy's car and break it, and he'll be sad. I won't let them, Clara said. She looked up at the tow driver, then at Richard. You should stop, right now, before this gets any worse. You're fired, Richard said flatly. Then I'm fired. Stop the truck. The tow driver had already killed the winch. He was staring at Chloe with the expression of someone who just realized he was on the wrong side of history. Boss, I think maybe... You think what? That we should just let anyone bring whatever garbage they want because a kid is crying? This is a business. This is a child, Clara's voice rose, surprising even herself. And you're humiliating her father in front of 200 people over a car you haven't even looked at. I've seen enough. Have you checked the VIN? Have you had anyone who actually knows classic cars examine it, or are you just judging based on how it looks? Richard's jaw worked. It is junk. Then prove it, Clara said. You've got photographers here, media, collectors. Someone must know enough to verify what kind of car this actually is. If it's really just scrap, then fine. But if you're wrong, if there's even a chance you're wrong, you're making this entire event look ridiculous. For the first time, doubt flickered across Richard's face. The crowd was changing too. The laughter had died. Now people were whispering, looking uncomfortable. A few had lowered their phones. The optics were shifting fast. Rich event manager versus crying child. Arrogant city professional versus humble father. Richard clearly felt it too. Fine, he said through clenched teeth. Someone find me an expert who can verify this vehicle isn't worth my time. Already here. The voice came from the back of the crowd. People turned, parted. A man in his 60s pushed through, gray beard, leather jacket, moving with the particular confidence of someone who knew his business. Mason recognized him immediately. Dr. James Whitmore, automotive historian, had written 3 books on American muscle cars, consulted for the Smithsonian. Perfect. Jim, Richard said, relief flooding his voice. Thank goodness. Can you please explain to this gentleman that is that what I think it is? Dr. Whitmore was already moving toward the trailer, ignoring Richard entirely. It's a fake Cobra Kit car, Richard said. Obviously. Don't be an idiot, Richard. Dr. Whitmore reached the trailer, pulled back the tarp. His hands moved carefully, reverently, tracing the lines of the rusted body. My God, how long has this been sitting? Found it in a barn, Mason said quietly. A state auction. The chassis number? Mason told him. Dr. Whitmore went very still. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, probably his database. His face went pale. This is CSX 3012, he said slowly, clearly for everyone to hear. Built April 1965, Factory 427 side oiler. One of only 348 original 427 Cobras ever produced. Delivered to a dealer in Milwaukee. Disappeared from records in 1971. He looked up at Mason. Where the hell did you find this? Northern Wisconsin. Old farmer who bought it cheap in '72, drove it for 2 summers, then parked it when the engine blew. It's been in his barn for 53 years. Jesus Christ, Dr. Whitmore straightened, turned to face Richard and the crowd. Do you people understand what you're looking at? This isn't just a Cobra. This is automotive history. This is one of the holy grails of American muscle car collecting. It's covered in rust, someone in the crowd said weakly. It's survivable rust. Surface corrosion. The chassis is solid. Look at the welds, the original stampings. With proper restoration, this car is worth... He paused, calculating. $3 million, bare minimum. Maybe 4 if you find the right buyer. Maybe more. The silence was absolute. Richard had gone gray. Someone in the crowd was laughing nervously. The live stream viewers were probably losing their minds. Dr. Whitmore wasn't finished. And you were going to tow it with a hook and cable? Do you have any idea what kind of damage that could have caused to the undercarriage? To the original suspension? You could have destroyed hundreds of thousands of dollars of value. He turned to Mason. Who's handling the restoration? Haven't decided yet. Use Henderson in California. Tell him Jim sent you. He'll do it right. Dr. Whitmore pulled out a business card, handed it over. And please, for the love of everything holy, get this car out of here before these idiots hurt it. Mason took the card. Appreciate it. Can I get pictures for my database? Of course. While Dr. Whitmore documented the Cobra from every angle, taking detailed photos of the chassis number, the engine bay, the original interior, the crowd slowly began to disperse. The show was over. The drama had peaked, but the damage was done. Mason could already see it spreading, people on their phones sharing the footage, tagging the event, tagging the charity. The story was writing itself. Arrogant event manager tries to tow priceless classic car. Little girl cries. Brave waitress intervenes, secret revealed. It would be everywhere by tomorrow. Richard had vanished. Probably in his office, trying to figure out how to spin this. Good luck with that. Clara still stood nearby, watching Dr. Whitmore work. Chloe had stopped crying, but hadn't let go of Clara's hand. When the historian finally finished and walked away, Mason approached Clara directly for the first time. Thank you, he said simply. She shook her head. I didn't do anything. You stood up when nobody else would. That's not nothing. Clara looked down at Chloe, managed a small smile. I just didn't want her to be scared. You probably lost your job. Probably. She didn't sound upset exactly, more resigned. It's okay. It was temporary anyway. I've lost worse jobs for worse reasons. Mason studied her for a moment, really looked at her. She had the particular exhaustion that came from working too many hours for not enough money, the careful posture of someone used to making themselves invisible. But she'd stepped forward anyway, put herself at risk for strangers. That was rare. What's your name? He asked. Clara Bennett. Mason Reed. He held out his hand. She shook it, her grip firm despite the nervousness in her eyes. You hungry, Clara? She blinked. What? We're going to get breakfast. You should join us. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because She stopped, glanced at the expensive cars still arranged around the lot, at the wealthy people in their expensive casual wear. I don't fit in here. Neither do I, Mason said. That's kind of the point. Chloe tugged Clara's hand. Please come. Daddy makes really good pancakes at home, but restaurant pancakes are better, and he won't admit it. Traitor, Mason muttered. Clara laughed, a surprised, genuine sound. I really shouldn't. You're fired anyway, Mason pointed out. Might as well get a meal out of it. She hesitated, clearly torn. Mason could see the calculation happening, the awareness of social distance, of inappropriate boundaries, of all the unspoken rules about who ate breakfast with billionaires and who didn't. He waited. Didn't push. Let her make the choice herself. Okay, Clara said finally, but somewhere normal, not anywhere fancy. Deal. They ended up at a diner called Pete's, 20 minutes from the event venue, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since dawn, and waitresses who called everyone hun. Perfect. Chloe ordered chocolate chip pancakes. Clara got scrambled eggs and toast. Mason asked for black coffee and hash browns. You're really a billionaire? Clara asked after the waitress left. She said it quietly, like she was afraid someone would overhear. Technically, most of it's tied up in investments and property. It's not like I have a vault of gold coins. But you could buy anything you wanted. Most things, yeah. Why do you live in the middle of nowhere? Mason glanced at Chloe, who was coloring on the paper placemat with crayons the restaurant kept in a cup. Privacy, safety, peace. You don't like the city? The city's fine. The people who come with money aren't. Clara absorbed this. Is that why you hid the car? Because people would judge you differently if they knew what it was? Partly. Mostly I just wanted to see if anyone would look past the rust. That's kind of a test, isn't it? Maybe. Did I pass? Mason smiled. You're the only one who did. The food arrived. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, Chloe making a serious dent in her pancakes while Clara picked at her eggs. Can I ask you something? Clara said eventually. Sure. Why did you really come to that event? You clearly didn't care about showing off. You knew they'd react badly to the car, so why bring it? Mason considered the question. The charity is legitimate. They're actually helping kids learn useful skills instead of just throwing parties and skimming donations. I wanted to support that. And I thought, he paused, I thought maybe seeing something real, something with history and value underneath the surface damage, might remind people that worth isn't always obvious. That's pretty optimistic for a guy who lives alone in the woods. I have my moments. Clara smiled, but it faded quickly. They're going to crucify that event manager online. The video's probably everywhere already. He made his choice. You don't feel bad? He tried to humiliate a single father in front of his daughter because a car didn't look expensive enough. He called a priceless piece of automotive history junk without bothering to check. He threatened to destroy something irreplaceable out of pure arrogance. Mason shrugged. No, I don't feel bad. Fair enough. Chloe looked up from her coloring. Clara, do you have kids? No, sweetie. Do you want kids? Chloe, Mason started. It's okay, Clara said. I don't know. Maybe someday, if things were different. What would need to be different? Clara's expression grew distant. Money, stability, a life that didn't feel like it was going to fall apart any second. My mommy died, Chloe announced with the casual brutality of children discussing tragedy. In a car accident 3 years ago. I'm so sorry, Clara said softly. Daddy cries sometimes when he thinks I'm asleep. I hear him. Mason felt his chest tighten. Chloe, it's okay, Daddy. It's true. She returned her attention to Clara. Are you sad too? Sometimes. About what? My mom's sick. We don't have money for the treatment she needs. I work a lot, but it's never enough. Clara's voice had gone quiet. Sorry, you didn't ask for my life story. I did, though, Chloe said. I asked if you were sad. Clara laughed, but it sounded wet. You did. You're right. They finished breakfast. Mason paid the bill, left a tip that would probably make the waitresses weak. Outside in the parking lot, Clara hesitated before getting into her beat-up Honda. Thank you for breakfast, she said. Thank you for standing up for Chloe. Anyone would have. They didn't, though. That's the point. Everyone else walked away. Clara looked down, uncomfortable with the praise. I should go. I need to start looking for another job. What kind of work do you do, besides catering events? Anything I can find, waitressing, mostly, some retail. I'm not really qualified for much else. Mason pulled out his wallet, extracted a business card. Call this number. Ask for Jennifer. Tell her I sent you. Clara took the card, read it. Reed Investments? We're always looking for good people. Jennifer runs HR. She'll find something that fits. I don't have a college degree. Neither did my grandfather, and he started the company. Jennifer will work with you. Just call. Clara stared at the card like it might bite her. I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's hiring someone who showed integrity when it mattered. That's rare. I'm not in the habit of letting rare things slip away. She looked up at him, searching his face for something. Insincerity, maybe, or ulterior motives. Whatever she was looking for, she didn't seem to find it. Okay, she said finally. I'll call. Good. Chloe hugged Clara's legs suddenly, fiercely. Come visit us sometime. Daddy doesn't have friends, and it makes him sad. I have friends, Mason protested weakly. Name one. He couldn't. Clara was trying not to laugh. I'll visit, Clara promised. If your dad says it's okay. It's okay, Mason said. They drove home in the late afternoon light, the Cobra still secure on its trailer, Dr. Whitmore's card in Mason's pocket, Clara's phone number in his contacts. Chloe fell asleep somewhere past the suburbs, her head against the window, Mr. Turnip clutched tight. Mason drove and thought about the expression on Clara's face when she'd stepped between Chloe and the tow truck. The way she'd looked at his daughter, not with pity, but with recognition, like she understood what it felt like to be small and scared and at the mercy of people who didn't care. He thought about rust and value, and things that looked broken but weren't. By the time they pulled into the driveway, the sun was setting behind the barn, painting everything gold and amber. Mason carried Chloe inside, put her to bed still in her clothes. She barely stirred. Then he went back outside, stood in front of the Cobra while the last light faded from the sky. $3 million of history and craftsmanship hidden under a layer of oxidation and time. Dismissed as garbage by people who looked at surfaces instead of structures. He pulled the tarp back over it, secured the ties. Tomorrow he'd call Henderson in California, start the restoration process. It would take months, maybe a year. But he'd do it right. Bring it back the way it deserved. And maybe, if he was lucky, Clara would call Jennifer. Maybe something else could be restored too. Something that had been rusting for longer than any car. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. The video has 2 million views. Board wants a statement. Mason deleted the message, turned off his phone, and went inside to his empty house. In the kitchen, Chloe's drawings still covered the counter. Crayon sketches of horses and rainbows, and a stick figure family that included a mommy who wasn't there anymore. He cleaned them up carefully, saved them in the folder with all the others. Then he sat in the dark living room and thought about the future for the first time in 3 years. Clara stared at the business card for 3 days before she found the courage to dial the number. It sat on her kitchen counter next to the stack of overdue bills, electric, water, her mother's prescription copays. The card looked expensive, heavy stock paper, embossed lettering, the kind of thing people like her didn't usually hold unless they were cleaning someone's office. Reed Investments. A phone number. An address in downtown Chicago that she recognized from passing it on the bus. You should call, her mother said from the couch. Patricia Bennett was 53 but looked 70, her body wrecked by the kind of cancer that didn't care about health insurance or payment plans. She'd been on the couch for 2 months now, too weak to climb the stairs to her bedroom. I don't know, Mom. What's the worst that happens? They say no? They say yes, and then I mess it up. Clara filled a glass of water, brought it over with her mother's afternoon pills. I'm not qualified for whatever job they're offering. He wouldn't have given you the card if he didn't mean it. You don't know that. Rich people do weird things. Maybe he felt sorry for me. Patricia took her pills slowly, wincing. The girl you told me about, his daughter, she liked you. She's 7. 7-year-olds like everyone. You said she hugged you. Clara had said that. Had mentioned it maybe 5 times since breakfast at Pete's, actually, though she'd tried to sound casual about it. Something about that small body pressing against her legs, those thin arms wrapping tight, had lodged itself somewhere in her chest and wouldn't leave. "Just call," Patricia said. "What else are you going to do? Go back to Marco's and let him grab your ass every shift?" "He doesn't." Clara stopped. "He did. Marco absolutely did, and they both knew it, and she'd been putting up with it because she needed the money, and jobs that paid under the table didn't come with HR departments." She picked up the card again, turned it over. Nothing written on the back, just the smooth, expensive cardstock. "Okay," she said. "I'll call." She called the next morning after her mother fell back asleep. A professional voice answered on the second ring. "Reed Investments. How may I direct your call?" Claire's throat went dry. Hi. I'm looking for Jennifer, in HR. May I ask who's calling?" "Clara Bennett. Mason Reed told me to. Mr. Reed suggested I—" "One moment, please." Classical music filled the line. Clara counted her heartbeats. Got to 47 before someone picked up. "This is Jennifer Okoro." The voice was warm, efficient. "You're Clara?" "Yes, Mr. Reed said I should call about—" "I know exactly why you're calling. Mason messaged me Sunday night. Can you come in today?" "Today? Is that a problem?" Claire looked down at her clothes. Yoga pants with a hole in the knee, a t-shirt from a 5K she'd never actually run. "I'd need to change, and I'm not sure I have anything appropriate for— Business casual is fine. 2 o'clock work for you?" Yes, 2 o'clock. "Perfect. Ask for me at reception. We'll get you sorted." The line went dead before Clara could ask what sorted meant. She spent the next 3 hours trying on every piece of clothing she owned, rejecting each one. Too casual, too worn, too obviously cheap. Finally, she settled on black pants that were only slightly faded and a blue blouse she'd bought for her mother's last hospital visit. The bus downtown took 40 minutes. Clara spent the entire ride alternating between nausea and a strange, buzzing hope that felt dangerous. Reed Investments occupied floors 18 through 22 of a glass tower that probably cost more than her entire neighborhood. The lobby had actual marble floors, real plants that someone clearly watered, security guards in suits. Clara felt like an imposter the moment she walked through the revolving door. The receptionist was young, polished, wearing jewelry that Clara suspected was real gold. She smiled when Clara approached, professional but not unkind. "I'm here to see Jennifer Okoro," Clara said. "I have a 2 o'clock. "Name?" "Clara Bennett." The receptionist typed something, nodded. "Take the elevator to 20. Someone will meet you." The elevator was the kind that moved so smoothly you barely felt it. Clara watched the numbers climb, tried to control her breathing. By the time the doors opened on 20, her palms were sweating. A woman waited in the hallway, late 30s, natural hair pulled back in an elegant twist, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than Clara made in a month. She smiled when she saw Clara, and it reached her eyes. "Clara? I'm Jennifer. Come on back." She led Clara through an open office space where people worked at sleek desks with multiple monitors, everyone looking competent and purposeful and like they belonged there. Clara had never felt more out of place in her life. Jennifer's office was smaller than Clara expected, just a desk, 2 chairs, a window overlooking the city. She gestured for Clara to sit. "Water? Coffee?" "I'm okay, thank you." Jennifer settled into her chair, pulled up something on her computer. "So, Mason says you stood up for his daughter when everyone else walked away." Clara shifted uncomfortably. It didn't seem right, what they were doing. Most people would have kept their heads down, especially someone in your position." "My position?" "Temporary employee. No job security. Direct conflict with management." Jennifer's eyes were kind but sharp. "You risked your income to help strangers. That tells me something about your character." "It got me fired." "It got you here." Jennifer leaned forward. "Tell me about your work history." Clara walked through it. The jobs that never lasted, the shifts that barely covered rent, the constant scramble to keep her head above water while her mother got sicker. She tried to make it sound better than it was, but Jennifer kept asking questions that forced honesty. "Why didn't you finish college?" "My dad left. Mom got sick the first time. Someone had to work." "What were you studying?" "Business administration. I wanted to... Clara stopped, shook her head. It doesn't matter. I didn't finish. It matters to me. What did you want to do? Clara hadn't said it out loud in years. I wanted to help small businesses, the kind that don't have resources for consultants or proper accounting. I thought maybe I could... She felt stupid suddenly. It's dumb. Forget it. It's not dumb. Jennifer made a note. What are your computer skills like? Basic office stuff. Excel, Word, I can learn. How are you with people? Fine, I guess. I've worked service jobs for 10 years. You get good at reading people or you don't last. Jennifer asked more questions about conflicts she'd handled, difficult customers, times she'd had to solve problems on the fly. Claire answered as honestly as she could, waiting for the moment when Jennifer would realize this was a mistake, that Clara didn't belong in a building like this. But that moment didn't come. Instead, Jennifer sat back, seemed to make a decision. I'm going to be straight with you. We have an opening in our community investment division. It's entry level, basically an administrative assistant with room to grow. You'd be supporting our team that works with small business grants and microloans. Claire's heart stuttered. That sounds like exactly what The pay is $45,000 to start. Health insurance, dental, vision, 4 weeks PTO. We also have an education assistance program if you want to finish your degree. The number hit Clara like a physical thing. 45,000. She currently made maybe 22 working 3 jobs. Health insurance meant her mother could see actual doctors instead of the urgent care clinic. PTO meant she could take her mom to chemo without losing shifts. I don't have a degree, Clara said weakly. I don't have experience in... You have 10 years of customer service, crisis management, and working under pressure. You stood up to a room full of wealthy assholes to protect a child. And Mason Reed, who doesn't trust easily, trusts you enough to send you here. Jennifer's smile was genuine. That's enough for me. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Start Monday. We'll handle the paperwork now. Clara's eyes were burning. She blinked hard, trying to keep it together. Yes, God, yes, thank you. Don't thank me. Do good work. That's all I ask. The paperwork took an hour. Direct deposit forms, tax documents, insurance selections that Clara read 3 times because she couldn't believe they were real. Jennifer walked her through everything patiently, never making her feel stupid for asking questions. When it was done, Jennifer handed her a folder with copies of everything. You'll start Monday at 8. Dress code is business casual. What you're wearing now is perfect. Your supervisor is Marcus Chen. He's good people. You'll like him. I still can't believe this is happening. Believe it. Jennifer stood, extended her hand. Clara shook it, still dazed. And Clara? Mason doesn't do favors. He invests in people he thinks are worth it. Don't prove him wrong. I won't. Clara floated through the rest of the day in a haze. She took the bus home, walked into the apartment, and just stood there for a moment looking at her mother on the couch. Well, Patricia asked. I got it. I start Monday. Her mother's face crumpled. Not sad, relieved. The kind of relief that comes after years of holding your breath. How much? Clara told her. Patricia started crying. Then Clara was crying too, both of them ugly crying on the couch like they'd just won the lottery. Because, in a way, they had. That weekend, Clara called the number Mason had written on the back of Dr. Whitmore's card. The one for Chloe, with a note that said, in case you want to visit sometime. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Hi, it's Clara, Bennett from the... I know who you are. He sounded pleased. How'd it go with Jennifer? I start Monday. I don't know how to thank you. Do good work. Jennifer's excited about you. She said that? She did. There was a pause. Chloe's been asking about you, wants to know if you're coming to visit. Clara's chest did something complicated. I told her I would. You free tomorrow? We're grilling burgers. Nothing fancy. I wouldn't want to impose. Clara, you stood between my daughter and a tow truck. You can handle a backyard barbecue. She laughed despite herself. Okay, what time? Noon. I'll text you the address. Should I bring anything? Just yourself, and maybe low expectations for my cooking. Chloe's convinced I burn everything. I heard that. Chloe's voice came faintly through the phone. Clara was smiling when she hung up. really smiling, for the first time in weeks. Sunday morning, she borrowed her mother's car, a 1998 Civic that burned oil and made concerning noises but still ran. The drive to Mason's property took just over an hour, the city giving way to suburbs giving way to actual countryside. The address led her down a long gravel drive bordered by old oaks. The house appeared through the trees, huge, beautiful, completely unexpected. Not ostentatious, just solid and well-built, the kind of place that had been there for generations. Clara suddenly felt underdressed in her jeans and t-shirt. But when she parked, Chloe came running out before she'd even opened the door, Mr. Turnip tucked under one arm. "You came! Daddy said you would, but I wasn't sure." "I promised, didn't I?" Chloe grabbed her hand, started pulling her toward the house. "Come see my room and the barn. And Daddy's trying to make potato salad, but it looks weird." "I can hear you," Mason called from somewhere inside. The house was beautiful inside, but lived in. Chloe's drawings covered the refrigerator, dishes in the sink, a pair of small sneakers kicked off by the door. It felt like a home, not a showroom. Mason appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. He'd traded the work boots for bare feet, but otherwise looked the same. Jeans, t-shirt, comfortable in his own space. "Hey, you found us okay?" "GPS works even in the wilderness." "This isn't wilderness. Wilderness doesn't have internet." He gestured toward the back door. "Come on, I'll give you the tour before Chloe drags you into 47 different adventures." The property was incredible. 40 acres of woods and meadow, a pond, the barn that housed the Cobra, and what looked like several other project vehicles. Chloe ran ahead, pointing out her favorite trees and the place where she'd seen a deer last week. "This is amazing," Clara said. "How do you ever leave?" "I don't, mostly. That's the point." "Doesn't Chloe get lonely?" "Probably." Mason's expression darkened slightly. "I'm working on it. She's starting at a new school in the fall. Smaller class sizes, better program for kids who need extra support." "Extra support?" "Anxiety, PTSD. She's been seeing a therapist since the accident." He said it matter-of-factly, but Clara heard the weight underneath. "She's better than she was, but crowds still freak her out, loud noises, unexpected changes." "The tow truck." "Yeah, the tow truck." Mason stopped walking, looked out over the pond. "I shouldn't have brought her to that event. I knew it would be chaotic. I just wanted her to see something beautiful, something worth caring about." "The car." "And people who still gave a damn about craftsmanship, history, things that last." He shook his head. Instead, she got to watch her dad get humiliated by an asshole in a suit. "You weren't humiliated. Richard was. Doesn't change how it felt in the moment." Clara didn't know what to say to that. They stood in silence for a while, watching Chloe throw sticks into the pond for an imaginary dog. "She needs more than just me," Mason said quietly. "She needs friends, normal experiences, a life that isn't just her traumatized dad hiding in the woods." "You're not hiding." "Aren't I?" Claire considered that. "Maybe a little, but you're also keeping her safe. That counts for something." "Does it? Or am I just making it worse?" Before Clara could answer, Chloe came running back. "Can we eat now? I'm starving, and Daddy's potato salad is probably getting worse the longer we wait." "It's not that bad," Mason protested. "It has raisins in it. That's a classic preparation." "It's weird, Daddy." Clara laughed. "I'll be the judge. Let's eat." The burgers were actually perfect. Medium rare, seasoned well, nothing burned. The potato salad was indeed strange, but not terrible. They ate at a picnic table under an old maple, while Chloe told increasingly elaborate stories about her stuffed animals. "Mr. Turnip used to be a spy," she explained seriously. "But he retired because his ear got ripped off, and he couldn't hear the secrets anymore." "That's a solid reason to retire," Clara agreed. "Now, he mostly just gives advice. He's very wise." "What kind of advice?" Chloe thought about it. "He says people are usually nicer than they seem. You just have to give them a chance." Mason and Clara's eyes met across the table. Mason's expression was complicated. After lunch, Chloe wanted to show Clara the Cobra. They walked to the barn together, Chloe chattering about restoration and chassis numbers and things she clearly didn't fully understand but repeated because her father had told her. The car sat under better lighting now, the tarp removed. It still looked rough, rust and decay and years of neglect. But Clara could see something else now, too. The lines underneath. the shape of something that had once been beautiful.
Daddy's going to fix it, Chloe said. Make it shiny again. How long will that take? A year, maybe. Maybe more. Mason ran his hand along the edge of the doorframe. Can't rush good work. Why this car? Clara asked. Why not buy one that's already restored? Because nobody else wanted this one. Everyone saw junk, saw something not worth saving. He looked at her. I don't like leaving things behind just because they're damaged. Clara felt the words land somewhere deep. She turned away, pretended to examine a workbench covered in tools. Clara? Chloe's small voice. Are you okay? Yeah, sweetie, I'm good.
They spent the rest of the afternoon in comfortable ease, walking the property, sitting by the pond, talking about nothing important. Chloe showed Clara her room, which was exactly what you'd expect from a 7-year-old girl who'd been given unlimited art supplies and no supervision. Drawings covered the walls. A dollhouse sat half-constructed in the corner. Books everywhere. This is amazing, Clara said. Daddy lets me decorate however I want. He says it's my space. That's nice of him. He's sad a lot, though. Chloe said it casually while rearranging her stuffed animals. He doesn't think I know, but I do. Clara didn't know how to respond to that. He smiles more when you're here, Chloe continued. I like that. Chloe, do you have a dad? The question caught Clara off guard. He left when I was 12. I don't really remember him much. That's sad. Yeah, it was. Is your mom nice? Very nice. She's sick right now, but she's still the best person I know. Chloe considered this. Maybe she could come visit too sometime, if she's not too sick. Clara's throat tightened. Maybe. When the sun started setting, Clara knew she should leave, but found herself reluctant. Mason walked her to her car while Chloe stayed inside, already half asleep on the couch. Thank you for coming, he said. It meant a lot to her. I had a really good time. You sound surprised. I am, a little. I don't usually... Clara stopped. I don't usually fit in places like this. What places? Beautiful places. Peaceful places. Places where people have their lives together. Mason laughed, a short, bitter sound. You think I have my life together? More than me. Clara, I'm a widower, raising a traumatized kid in the middle of nowhere because I'm too scared to face the world. I haven't dated in 3 years. My father thinks I'm wasting my potential. My daughter talks to stuffed animals about complex emotional issues because I don't know how to help her process grief. I'm held together with duct tape and denial. Clara blinked. Oh, so yeah, you fit fine. They stood there in the driveway while the sky turned purple and gold, crickets starting their evening song. Can I come back? Clara asked. Sometime? I'd like that. Your dad, does he live nearby? Chicago. We don't talk much. Why not? Mason's jaw tightened. He thinks I'm hiding from responsibility. Thinks I should be running the company instead of letting the board handle it. Thinks raising Chloe in isolation is selfish. That's bullshit. Is it, though? Sometimes I think he's right. Sometimes I think I'm ruining her. You're not. Clara said it with absolute certainty. She's happy. She feels safe. That's more than a lot of kids get. She needs more than safe. She needs her dad. And you're here. You show up. That's everything. Mason looked at her for a long moment. How do you do that? Do what? Make things sound simpler than they are. They're simple. People just complicate them. He smiled, genuine this time. Come back next weekend. If you want. I want. Clara drove home as the last light faded, her mother's car rattling over the country roads, and felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Not quite hope. Not quite happiness. Something in between that didn't have a name yet. When she got home, her mother was still awake, watching some crime show with the volume too loud. How was it? Patricia asked. Good. Really good. The little girl. Perfect. Smart. Funny. A little sad, but handling it. And him? Claire sat down on the couch, pulled the blanket over her mother's legs. Complicated, lonely, doing his best. You like him. Mom, you do. I can tell. It's not like that. We're just friends. Friends who invite you to their house for burgers. Friends who helped me get a job.
that's all. Patricia gave her a look that said she wasn't buying it. Be careful, honey. Of what? Getting attached to things you can't keep. The words hit harder than they should have. Clara pulled the blanket tighter, said nothing. But late that night, lying in bed, she thought about Mason's hands on the cobra's rusted frame, the way he looked at damaged things and saw value instead of junk. She thought about Chloe saying her father smiled more when Clara was around. She thought about the way Mason had looked at her in the driveway, like she was something worth keeping too. And for the first time in years, Clara let herself wonder what it would feel like to stay. Monday morning arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Clara's hand shake while buttoning her blouse. She'd woken up at 5, unable to sleep, and spent 2 hours getting ready for a job she still couldn't quite believe was real. Her mother was already awake when Clara came downstairs, sitting at the kitchen table with her coffee. "You look professional," Patricia said. "I look terrified." That too, but mostly professional. Clara checked her reflection in the hallway mirror one more time. The blouse was wrinkled despite ironing it twice. Her shoes were scuffed, but it was the best she had, and it would have to be enough. "I'm going to mess this up," she said. "Probably. Everyone messes up their first week." Her mother smiled. "But you'll figure it out. You always do." The bus was crowded with commuters, everyone buried in their phones or staring vacantly at nothing. Clara stood near the back, gripping the pole, trying to breathe slowly. By the time she reached the Reed Investments building, her shirt was sticking to her back with sweat. The security guard recognized her from Friday, waved her through with a nod. The elevator ride to 20 felt both too fast and too slow. When the doors opened, a man in his early 40s was waiting. Asian, glasses, friendly smile. "Clara Bennett? That's me? Marcus Chen, I'm your supervisor. Welcome aboard." He shook her hand firmly, then led her through the office to a desk near the windows. It wasn't much. Standard corporate setup, computer, phone, a sad little succulent someone had left behind. But it was hers. "Jennifer probably told you we handle community investment," Marcus said, settling into the chair beside her desk. "Small business grants, microloans, financial literacy programs. Basically, we help people who can't get traditional financing." "Sounds good." "It is good. It's also a lot of paperwork and annoying bureaucracy." He grinned. "But someone's got to do it. Your main job is keeping me organized, managing applications, following up with applicants. Think you can handle that?" "I can try. That's all I ask." Marcus pulled up something on her computer. "Let's get you logged in. Fair warning, our database system is from like 2003 and it's temperamental as hell, but you'll figure it out." The first week was overwhelming. Clara spent 8 hours a day drowning in spreadsheets and application forms and phone calls with small business owners who were desperate, angry, or both. The database crashed twice. She accidentally deleted an entire folder of files on Wednesday and spent 3 hours recovering them while Marcus assured her everyone did that at least once. But she didn't get fired. Marcus was patient, walking her through processes multiple times without making her feel stupid. The other people in the office were friendly, stopping by to introduce themselves, inviting her to lunch, treating her like she belonged there. By Friday afternoon, Clara's brain felt like mush, but she'd made it through without any catastrophic failures. "You did good," Marcus said as she was packing up. "See you Monday." "Thanks. For everything. Thank me by not quitting. We go through assistants like tissues around here." "Why?" "Because the work is hard and the pay is just okay, and most people realize they can make more money doing literally anything else." Marcus shrugged. "But the ones who stay tend to stay for a long time. Something about actually helping people gets addictive." Clara thought about that on the bus ride home. The applications she'd processed that week. A woman trying to start a catering business, a veteran opening an auto shop, a single father launching a cleaning service. Real people with real dreams who just needed someone to take a chance on them. She understood that. When she got home, her mother was on the couch, looking worse than usual, pale, sweating. "How bad?" Clara asked. "Had a rough day?" "It's fine." It wasn't fine. Clara could see that, but the clinic wouldn't see her mother without payment up front, and the new insurance didn't kick in for another 3 weeks. "I'll call them again tomorrow," Clara said. "Don't, I'll manage." "Mom, I said I'll manage. Tell me about work." So Clara did, sitting on the floor beside the couch, describing Marcus and the office
and the application from the woman who wanted to open a bakery in Englewood. Her mother listened, asked questions, smiled at the right parts, but Clara could see the pain in her eyes. That night she lay awake calculating numbers. The insurance would help once it started, but there were still copays, deductibles, medications that weren't covered. Her salary was better than anything she'd made before, but it still wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough. Saturday morning, her phone buzzed with a text from Mason. "You coming out today?" Chloe's been asking. Clara had almost forgotten. The week had been such a blur that the previous weekend felt like it had happened to someone else. "What time? Whenever. We're not doing anything important." She borrowed her mother's car again, stopped at a grocery store on the way to pick up cookies because showing up empty-handed felt wrong. The drive was easier this time, less nerve-wracking. She even enjoyed it. Windows down, radio playing something forgettable, the city giving way to open space. Chloe was waiting on the porch when Clara pulled up, already running toward the car before Clara had even turned off the engine. "You came back." "I told you I would." Adults say lots of things they don't mean. Daddy says it's called being polite. "Well, I meant it." Chloe grabbed her hand, started pulling her toward the house. "Guess what? The restoration guy called and he's coming next week to look at the car, and Daddy let me help pick out the new seat covers, even though he says I have terrible taste." "Your taste is fine," Mason called from inside. "It's just very pink." "Pink is a good color." "For race cars?" "For everything." Clara laughed, following Chloe through the front door. The house smelled like coffee and something baking. Mason appeared from the kitchen, flour on his shirt. "You're early." "Is that okay?" "It's fine. I'm making cinnamon rolls. They'll be ready in 20 minutes. "You bake?" "Sometimes, when I'm stressed." "What are you stressed about?" Mason glanced at Chloe, who was already distracted by her coloring books. "My father called. He's coming for dinner tomorrow." "That sounds normal?" "You haven't met my father." They sat on the back porch while the cinnamon rolls baked, Chloe running around the yard with a kite that wouldn't fly because there wasn't enough wind. Mason explained his father in fragments. Philip Reed, founder of Reed Investments, semi-retired but still controlling, convinced Mason was wasting his life and potential. "He thinks I should be in the city," Mason said, "running board meetings, making deals, being visible." "What do you think?" "I think visibility is overrated. I think most of what passes for business is just ego and theater. I can do more good from here, making decisions that actually help people instead of just shareholders." "Does your dad understand that?" "My dad understands profit margins and market share. He doesn't understand why I choose to live like this when I could have anything." Clara watched Chloe trip over the kite string, get up laughing. "She seems happy here." "She is. That's what kills me. She's happy. She's healing. She's starting to trust the world again. But my father acts like I'm keeping her prisoner." "Are you worried he's right?" Mason was quiet for a long time. "Every single day." The cinnamon rolls were perfect, sweet, warm, exactly what Clara needed after the week she'd had. They ate them at the kitchen counter while Chloe described an elaborate fantasy involving Mr. Turnip saving the president from aliens. "The president of what?" Mason asked. "Of America, Daddy. Obviously." "Why would aliens attack the president specifically?" "Because he has the nuclear codes. Everyone knows that." Clara tried not to laugh. Failed. After breakfast, Mason took them out to the barn to show Clara the restoration progress. He'd started cataloging every part, taking detailed photos, creating spreadsheets that tracked condition and replacement needs. "Henderson says it'll take at least 18 months, Mason said, running his hand along the Cobra's frame. "Maybe 2 years. Depends on parts availability." "That's a long time." "Good work takes time." He looked at her. "You can't rush fixing something that's been broken for 50 years. Clara felt the weight of that statement settle somewhere in her chest. They spent the rest of the day doing nothing particularly important, walking the property, playing cards, making sandwiches for lunch. It felt natural in a way Clara hadn't expected, comfortable, like something that could become a routine. When she left that evening, Chloe hugged her goodbye at the door. "Will you come to dinner tomorrow?" the little girl asked. "When Grandpa comes?" "Oh, I don't think—" "Please? Grandpa's kind of scary and you make Daddy less nervous." Mason looked embarrassed. "You don't have to—" "I'll come," Clara heard herself say. "What time?" 6. "And thank you,"
Mason said it quietly, just for her. Really? Sunday arrived too quickly. Claire spent the morning helping her mother with bills and medications, trying not to think about meeting Philip Reed. But by 4 o'clock, the anxiety had built to the point where her mother noticed. "What's wrong with you?" Patricia asked. "I'm having dinner with Mason's father." And that's terrifying because he's a